come on in here. We gotta chat. Hey y'all, welcome to Nahla Behind the Wall. I'm your host, Nahla K. Let me start by saying a huge, humongous thank you to everyone who has subscribed. I am actually over 100 subscribers, and this is my first week on YouTube. So I really appreciate you. Just want to thank everyone who clicked the subscribe button and dropped down into the comments. I appreciate every single comment, critique, suggestion, and word of support. Really thank you. Thank you so much. Now, speaking of suggestions, today's video comes courtesy of the suggestions from commenters who asked me to dig a little deeper and provide a little more nuance to the story. And that's exactly what I did. I went back and rewatched some of the subsequent videos that came out from Shanquella and Khalil's social media. And then I compared what I found in those videos with the witness statements from the two Cabo Villas employees. I'm going to share with you all a couple of things that stood out to me as odd. And we're going to also hear from a former head of the FBI Criminal Investigative Division on why he does not think the Cabo Six will ever be extradited back to Mexico to face charges there. So we're going to start with a video released by NC Beat. Shout out to Gerald Jackson, who's doing some really great work over there. And I slowed it down so we could really pay attention. So here you see Elise walking up to the table, and then Shanquella is holding the camera. There is Winter, and at the end of the table is Dejanay. I believe she is speaking to the concierge because of the hat. At first I thought it could have been a waiter, but that hat makes me think maybe it was the concierge. Then we have Khalil at the far end next to Dejanay, and right next to Shanquella is Malik. Now, what was really interesting that a commenter, Elaine Nunn, pointed out, shout out to her, the concierge commented in his statement that Shanquella was acting kind of odd. She was last to the table. She didn't fit in. But as we saw in the video, Shanquella was already seated, and it was Elise who came up last. Now, it is entirely possible that Elise got up from the table and came back. She is carrying a bottle in her hand, so that is a possibility. Now we have the scene of Shanquella skinny dipping. So skinny dipping, we all know, means naked. And it seems like this could be in the morning, early in the morning. And if it is, if she's naked here, that could explain why she was naked in the video where Dejanay attacked her. Now remember, the administrator said he thought that the video was recorded between 7 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. because of how the light was hitting the room. That could explain why she was naked in the video coming right out of the pool. So here's the video of Shanquella in the hammock where Khalil walks up and says, "We got our first unalived body. And I did do some research. Shout out to Safe Space. She wanted to know a little bit more about the body. So here you go. So this is how you play body. Some people call it body. Gather a group of people together. The group should be no smaller than 7 people because it's too difficult to play after that point. Find a standard deck of cards, 52 cards, and it can have jokers. Decide how many red rummers you should have. And if you want to know what that means, just spell red rum backwards. For a small group, you should only need one. For a group of 20 or so, you can go as high as 2 or 3. From the deck of cards, pick out one card for each person playing the game. There needs to be a special card, i.e. the ace, for each red rummer. Take the pile of cards and place them face down in the center of the room. Have everyone pick a card from the pile. They cannot show or tell anyone what their card is. Have them place their cards back in the pile. The person or people with the special identification card, the ace, that indicates that they are the red rummer. Now explain that those who are the red rummers must indicate to a person that they are being unalived when a pair of hands are placed about the neck in a motion that prevents air from getting through. I'll just say that. Have everyone gather in a circle on their hands and knees. Everyone must be quiet and somebody must be near the door to turn the lights off. Turn the lights off and then everyone starts crawling around. The red rummer will also be crawling around silently, preventing people from getting air through their neck when the lights are off. Now comes the fun part. If you come across someone lying on the ground, you yell, "Body, body," and have the person by the light switch flip the lights on. Now you must vote on who you think is the red rummer. Now those people who are not unalived, they will vote between the two people who they believe could be the red rummer. Now, if you're the red rummer, you say, "You got me." But if you're not, you say, "It wasn't me." The people who were unalived and those who have been deleted, they sit in a corner of the room silently. So the game goes on until everyone is either unalived or the red rummer is caught. Interesting game, and I think I'll pass. Now back to the case. I wanted to point something out I found interesting. Notice in the video of Shanquella in the hammock, the timestamp says 8:45. After that, there is footage of Shanquella holding the birthday flask, and the timestamp says 8:40. So I'm wondering how that worked. If she was knocked out in the hammock 5 minutes later, that seems odd. And also, I recall in the police report, the investigative report, the concierge said that they did not arrive. Dejanay did not arrive until 8. So Khalil, and I'm guessing it was Shanquella, they were the couple that were there already. And when Dejanay came, it was 8 o'clock. So there was a lot of things happening. And then they finally sat down to dinner because it was supposed to start at 8. And he said that if they didn't start at 8, they would have to pay for an extra hour. And Dejanay didn't want that. So everybody came to sit down and eat. So they started eating as soon as she got there and drinking a lot, as he said. And then Shanquella showed the flask, and 5 minutes later, she was knocked out in the hammock. That's very odd. Just something to chew on. And one final thing I'd like to bring out. When she recorded them doing the push-ups, playing the Charge It to the Game card game, that's a game, that's a drinking game. So they were doing push-ups, and at the end of that clip, you see where it says 10 push-ups or take a double shot. Well, for some odd reason, at the beginning of the clip, Shanquella held the screen at send a hate mail or hate message to someone who flaked. And she just held it there as if to say something, because that wasn't what we were seeing in the video. So I wonder why she held it there. Was she upset about something that someone texted her, some hate message that someone texted her? Or was she mad at someone who was flaking? Flaking can mean they didn't show up like they said they would, a la Nazir. Or flaking could mean you acting funny, as in I walk into a room and you all looking at me crazy. And here's a video I got, a news story from WCNC in Charlotte. They interviewed a former FBI head, and he says that he does not believe the U.S. will extradite the Cabo Six.
Shanquella Robinson's case is at a standstill. Her family pushing for the FBI and State Department to make an arrest or hand things over to Mexico.
Mexican authorities have already concluded the investigation. They've said that it was homicide.
The work is done.
The work is done.
Family attorney Ben Crump argues the fastest way to justice may be extraditing the suspects. Attorney Chris Swecker, former head of the FBI Criminal Investigative Division, says it's extremely rare for the U.S. to give a citizen to another country, especially if there are concerns of a corrupted government.
These people are innocent until proven guilty, and we're not. I don't think that we are convinced that they would get the type of due process that they're entitled to, as they would be entitled to in this country.
For suspects to be extradited, Swecker says Mexican investigators would need to come to the U.S. to share their evidence. Then U.S. officials would find the suspects and take them to Mexico. But he doesn't think that'll happen.
I would be very surprised if our Justice Department would be willing to extradite to Mexico. I think they'd much rather try these killers up here.
It's unclear if Mexican and U.S. authorities are working together. Swecker predicts the U.S. will likely take jurisdiction of the case, just not as fast as Shanquilla's family would like. The family says they've gotten little to no response from the federal government. Swecker thinks they deserve an update.
Have they asked for the evidence? Have they asked for the investigators in Mexico to come to the U.S.? Are they willing to indict these people in the United States?
Questions Crump hopes to get answered when he expects to meet with the Foreign Relations Committee and White House officials sometime after April 1st. In Charlotte, Julia Kaufman, WCNC Charlotte.
And finally, someone in the comments did ask about a timeline, and I was able to put one together courtesy of WCNC Charlotte once again. And I'm going to just go through what I found. On October 29, 2022, Shanquella Robinson's final moments. They traveled to Cabo on the 28th, and a doctor was called to assist Robinson on that Saturday, the 29th, around 2 p.m. She had convulsions around 4 and was pronounced dead at 5:57 p.m. Late October to November 2022, information started to circulate about Shanquella. No one knew about this. It had been a couple weeks, not until a video began circulating in about mid-November of the brutal attack on Shanquella by who we know now as Dejanay. And Baja California Sur's Attorney General Daniel de la Rosa Anaya was later asked in an interview with a Mexican journalist why they didn't prevent them from leaving. And he stated that by the time the investigators were identifying the suspects, the group had already fled back to the U.S. And we now know that was because they tricked the concierge into sending them a car to go to dinner, and they actually went to the airport. On November 16th of 2022, the Baja California Sur Attorney General's office opened the investigation. On November 18th, the U.S. FBI opened an investigation. On November 19th, the funeral was held for Shanquella. On November 25th, the arrest warrant was issued We know now that arrest warrant had Dejanay Jackson's name on it. It was issued by the State Attorney General's Office of Baja California Sur, and it was for, again, femicide, which is the equivalent of homicide in the U.S. On November 30th, Shanquella Robinson's father spoke to WCNC Charlotte, and just to quote her father, he said that she was so full of life. I just want to know why. On December 10th, Shanquella Robinson's family and friends held a rally to demand justice. Hundreds of people gathered at the Little Rock AME Zion Church in Uptown Charlotte to honor her life and to demand justice. On January 9th, 2023, there was a balloon release held on Shanquella Robinson's birthday. On January 17th, the Mexican prosecutors updated the investigation, saying they were aiming to extradite the suspect to Mexico. The state's Attorney General De La Rosa Anaya said the authorities were focused on locating the suspect, and he said they were working with Interpol here in the U.S. to put, or actually Interpol is international, to put out a red notice, which is a global advisory to be on the lookout for the suspect. On February 18th, there was another community demonstration to rally support in hopes for getting justice. Family members, friends, community activists, they all came together. They filled envelopes with letters that they sent to the Mexican authorities begging for an arrest in the case. March 3rd, the supporters went to Washington to demand diplomatic intervention. Robinson's family was joined by activists as they called on U.S. lawmakers to take action. Finally, on March 13th, Sue Ann Robinson, the Robinson's family attorney, she is of no relation, and Ben Crump shared the letter that they sent to President Joe Biden and Secretary of State Antony Blinken. And they said, quote, "In our letter to President Biden and Secretary Blinken, we clearly stated that one of two things needs to happen. Either the U.S. extradites Shanquella's killer to Mexico, or the U.S. takes jurisdiction of the case and her killer is prosecuted. Inaction is not acceptable in this case." Now, we just heard from a former FBI head of FBI criminal investigations that it is highly unlikely, very rare, that the U.S. will extradite. And what will likely happen is the accused will face trial or prosecution on U.S. soil, and it will be a long time before that justice is carried out. Listen, I appreciate each and every one of you for every like, every comment, every sub. If you haven't already, please subscribe. What are you waiting for? And don't forget to hit the notification bell. And thank you to my over 100 subbies. I hope we can build a channel that gives us a safe space to discuss the stories that affect us as mature women, to hold each other accountable for our stumbles and missteps, and lovingly embrace one another as the unique beings we were created to be. So ladies, get ready, get set, let's chat. See you in the next video. Thanks again, everybody. I'll see you. Thanks again, everybody. I will see you in the next video. Ready, set, let's chat. Thanks again, everyone. This is Nahla K, Nahla Behind the Wall, signing off, and I'll see you in the next video. Ready, set, let's chat.